And we are VIMTV, Velocities of Music. We're going to conclude our set of 10 today by doing another throwback based on our huge response from all the fans that we got from our Widepread Panic episode where we reviewed 2010's Dirty Side Down. We're going to review their first album, Space Wrangler, because Widepread Panic has a pretty big discography. This album came out in 1988 and pretty much set the stage for a lot of the jam band stuff that came out in the 90s and has continued into the 2000s. You know, there's really nowhere else to go from this but just go, holy crap, instrumentals. Wow. Wow. I mean, it's just some of the best instrumentals you hear.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Moving from that to the vocals, I think there's a little bit of displacement there. I think sometimes the vocals are great, and sometimes they bother me a little bit. The two examples I'll cite is track 4, Coconut. Easily one of our favorite tracks on here, if not the best track on here, I think.
You know, if I did have a coconut, I would give one to everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a great
way to outlook on life.
That's just a fantastic song.
It is.
And the lyrics and vocal delivery really fit with it.
Yep.
But then, like on the other side of that, track 10, Contentment Blues, I didn't really get in I didn't really understand the whole chicken thing, and then how serious he is about. I mean, man, this guy loves his chicken. Let me tell you, I've never heard someone get more into their chicken than this guy. But
the instrumentals on that song though are awesome.
Oh yeah, but and that's what I mean is sometimes I think they mesh up and sometimes they don't. I'm sure that there's lots of Widepread Panic fans out there that love the chicken bit. It didn't really get me. But
will you guys explain that to us too? Because if there has to be some sort of backstory there that we don't know about. So so if you know stuff about that, it'd be really interesting to hear. But there's just some awesome songwriting throughout this CD.
And I like that actually. You know, until the last track, Me and the Devil Blues. You know, obviously that's a very extended jam, but I don't think the jams on this really, in general, get too drawn out. I think they're very tactful. I think they're very good, obviously well performed. The one thing that actually blew me away, even more so than the guitar playing, was the bass playing.
Oh, yeah.
The bass lines are just sick throughout this, carry a lot of the instrumental melody in parts where it's a little slower, and I really appreciated that. Actually, another line I want to pick out, the last track, what is it? Heaven is a place where nothing ever happens, or something like that. I like that. I think that's kind of a cool little outlook, and a good way to end the album, too.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of good things about this album. I mean, I think with any album of this genre, you're going to get a lot of repetition from song to song, a lot of the same kinds of moods and sounds.
Well, it's a lot of material and a lot of similar concepts being presented in that material. Yeah. So there is going to be repetition.
Yeah. Also, I want to point out that the production at first was a little hard to wrap my head around just because the production sounds very 80s. It was very off-putting at first, and after a few listens, you know, that wore away. You know, that was just kind of at first.
Well, and another thing is with these older albums too. I mean, you got to look at production in the context of the technology of the time. So I don't know. I look at it a little bit less.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, you know, it carries on that tradition set by, you know, some bands you have written down here. Kansas, Allman Brothers Band. You know, those bands were doing, you know, similar things, but still these guys definitely take it in their own direction.
It really makes you question Dave Matthews Band when you start really digging into Widepread Panic, because Widepread Panic just kicks so much ass, and Dave at times, while I like Dave Matthews, I mean, in comparison, I mean,
he pusses out a little bit.
Come on.
And these guys are very true. And there's a charm about this album that I love. I feel like Mike Hauser and co. just called me up and said, "Hey Tom, why don't you come over to our place? We're gonna jam around, and I think you might like to hear it." And I say, "Okay," and I go and I kick back in a chair, and they just jam out for me and have a good time. And that's what I feel like is happening on this album, and I love that.
And that's what it's all about. And really, there's not a lot of ambition there. In addition to that, it's just we're gonna kick back, have a good time, and jam out.
Yeah.
And that's the concept behind jam band music, and that's what Widespread Panic is. And this is just the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that level for me is just of really high quality, and it's just it's the perfect setup for like an even 80 for me.
Yeah.
In context with today's music, keep in mind. Now we're not, and I really want to make this point clear. We're not grading the band. We're not grading their live performance. We are not grading that. We are not grading this album in context with other Widespread Panic albums. We're grading this in context with just today's music. 8 out of 10. Contextually, 10 out of 10. You know, sure. But
or even music if it's a day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I'm at with it right now. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to meet you right there. I'm going to say 80. And the thing is, I think that is right where the music is at. I think it shows a lot of tact. I think there's a little bit of a lack in diversity, which actually I think I got even more from their newer release, Dirty Side Down. More diversity from that album.
That was way more focused than this, too.
But the thing is, too, I think, and there was one comment we got from a crazed Widespread Panic fan that said every Widespread Panic album is a perfect 10. I mean, obviously, you know, we can't do that, and obviously there's lots of nostalgia that goes into that. Well, we've given you a disclaimer about what our limited experience with this band is, so please, you can't expect that we're going to have that nostalgic attachment to this. But still, it is very good music. I can understand why now, if you grew up listening to this, starting listening to this when you were young and been listening to it for years, why it would be such an important part of your life, because it has that charm, it has that uplifting allure to it that you can always come back to and get enjoyment out of. And that's totally understandable. At the same time, don't expect that from these two guys right now. We've been listening to this band for a limited amount of time. We're trying to focus on the music rather than our own, you know, really extended experience with it that we don't have.
And I do want to give you Widespread Panic fans out there a lot of credit, though, because we've been doing this for a year, and over the course of the year, I have not seen a fan base be so devoted and just awesome. And just such a cool group of people to talk to about music as the Widespread Panic fans who've come out and talked to us about their Widespread Panic experience. And really, it just, that sort of vibe just makes you want to get into a band.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I really, you know, I appreciate it. I love this album. So I mean, I would really like to see more comments from you guys and have more musical discussion about Space Wrangler. So, you know, give us a comment at www.velocitiesmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesmusic. Tom, you want to throw in anything?
No. Sounds good.
All right, I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Moving Music Critique Forward.